guys, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Hope you all are having a great day and a great week of training so far. Today's topic, we're going to be discussing how aerobic training versus anaerobic training are different, and the importance of training, both obviously training without oxygen and with oxygen. So the reason why I'm making this particular video is because one of my visitors to the channel, Eric Klein, great question, Eric. He said, I just want to see if you could expand on your ongoing advice about anaerobic training versus aerobic. It seems you stress that anaerobic training is even more important than aerobic for longer distance races, mile and up, while those races are very aerobic to my knowledge. Is it just that anaerobic training and threshold training will increase your aerobic ability or make aerobic work easier? Definitely it will help. It will definitely increase your aerobic ability, as well as make aerobic running much easier if you're training anaerobically. And definitely the difference is, you know, from the mile up to around the 10K distance, those are the events that are mainly more so anaerobic as opposed to aerobic, which are distances more so. Really anything above 10K is really more so anaerobic or aerobic events. So regardless if it's the mile, which is you're really going to have to be focusing on your speed and really paying attention to not only the anaerobic training that you have to put in order to run a strong quality mile, but you also do have to pay attention to aerobic running, which is very, you know, obviously very easy, relaxed recovery running, so that you can bounce back from those hard workouts. But anaerobic training is still critical in order for you to clear lactic acid faster than it's building up. What you don't want is to be in a race where you're not able to sufficiently clear that lactic acid efficiently enough so that you can sustain that pace, your race pace, for long periods of time. So, you know, in terms of aerobic training is still vital, whether you're training for the mile, which is an anaerobic event, or you're training for the marathon or the half marathon, which are more so aerobic events. You know, anaerobic is just simply you're training at such high intensities that you're building up so much lactic acid that most of the time you can't clear it faster than it's building up. And yes, you can train at your anaerobic threshold, which is the point where we start to build up lactic acid for longer periods of time. Especially when you get fitter, you can spend up to about an hour almost training at your AT pace. You know, and again, that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of patience to get to a point where you can sustain anaerobic threshold effort for that long of a period of time. But in terms of aerobic running, you know, with oxygen, you're running at paces that are minimal. You know, you're building very minimal amounts of lactic acid buildup while you're running at these paces. So I think that both anaerobic as well as aerobic training are going to set you up for success. You have to have a mixture of both in order to run well, regardless if you're training for the mile's your event, maybe the 3K, maybe the 2 mile, or you're more of a athlete like me who is more suited better for the 10K up to the marathon distances. I think when you train too aerobically, you run too easy for too long of a period of time, you get very efficient, obviously, you're very strong endurance-wise, but when it comes to stamina and strength and being able to sustain pace and being able to run efficiently while you're at race pace, anaerobic training is absolutely the bread and butter workouts. You absolutely have to push the anaerobic systems of your body to get to a point where you can make race pace feel sustainable. It's going to hurt regardless how fit you are. It doesn't matter how motivated, how anaerobically fit you are. Race pace hurts because you're running for long periods of time and you don't have any rest in between those efforts. So it's different when you're out and you're doing a tempo run, maybe a 5 to 6 mile run, or maybe a 16 kilometer longer run at tempo effort. You know, there's days where you can, if you're not feeling it, you can, you know, either back off the pace or you can stop for a few seconds or a few minutes, whatever, and then get back into it. In a race, you have no rest period. So you want to get very efficient at running at race pace and being able to handle those ever increasing amounts of lactic acid buildup in your bloodstream while you're racing. So that's why I always stress that it's very important that you're paying attention to the other areas of your training. You can't just train anaerobically and push the body hard all the time. We get very caught up in what paces we're running, what per mile pace we're running, per kilometer pace we're running, how many miles or kilometers a week we're running. Obviously, these are all important, but when you get so caught up in volume and focusing on running high mileage, but running mileage that's too slow, too aerobic, then it's going to be, you have to have that anaerobic effort, those anaerobic workouts, the VO2 max workouts, where now VO2 max, that's stressing your systems to the point where you just simply cannot clear it. You can't clear lactic acid fast and it's building up. So it's normal to be out on the track doing repeat 200s or repeat 600s and going into oxygen dead on those. You need that rest in between each one of those reps. And as we get fitter, and that's what I talk about in all the running courses and the training programs I have on RunDreamAchieve.com, we focus on gradual buildup of intensities, and every 3 weeks there's a recovery week, so that we drop the mileage somewhat, we drop the intensity so you can recover during that recovery week, and then we go right back into the next week focusing on the anaerobic work as well as the aerobic work. So your question definitely is a great one. Anaerobic training will not only improve your aerobic ability, because it's going to make even your easy days easier, because you're so anaerobically fit, your heart doesn't have to work as hard. So you're running at even, if you're wearing a heart rate monitor and you're out on an easy run, your heart rate's going to be anywhere from 130 beats per minute to 145 beats per minute. And again, heart rate depends on age as well. If it's hot out, if it's cold out, obviously if it's hot out, your pace is going to be slower, because your body has to, is working to cool your muscles, and you're sweating more. So your pace most oftentimes when you're training in the heat is going to be slower. Obviously, too, if you're not running on flat surfaces, if you're running up hills, your heart rate's going to skyrocket. If you're running down hills, it's going to go lower. So you want to keep in mind when you're running with a heart rate monitor too, whether it's an easy day or a harder day, like an AT, you're doing an anaerobic threshold run, be mindful of the fact that you want to focus on effort if it's a rolling course, okay? Because if you're going downhill, your heart rate's going to drop, so you don't want to speed up and increase your paces just because you're going downhill. You just want to maintain the effort. So I think your question in regards to is it just the anaerobic training and threshold training will increase your aerobic ability or make aerobic work easier? I think it's a combination of both, because your anaerobic training is VO2 max workouts, where you're really pushing your heart rate skyrocketed, up to around 95 to 100% of it, your maximum heart rate. That's anaerobic training. Your anaerobic threshold training is the point where we just start to build up lactic acid in the bloodstream. So that's also very important, because you're training at your anaerobic effort. You're training at paces that are so fast, you're not gonna be able to race at that pace for very long. What you want to do is do a combination of both anaerobic training as well as anaerobic threshold training, which is, again, you're starting to build up lactic acid in your bloodstream, and you're teaching the body to handle moderate levels of lactic acid buildup while you're racing. So being able to do that, along with the hard anaerobic work, the real hard speed workouts, where you're doing one VO2 max workout a week that I teach, doing that coupled with your anaerobic threshold, your tempo runs each week, is going to make aerobic running much, much easier. And again, we race right around our anaerobic threshold. So the tempo efforts you guys and gals are doing, that is very important. And the longer you can extend that out, the better. Even if you're a miler or you're a 2-miler, if you can get your tempo runs out to, say, 5 to 7 miles, or 8 kilometers or longer, 8 to 15 kilometers, you're going to be dangerous when you race, because I'm telling you, the name of the game when it comes to racing, whether you're a middle distance runner or you're a long distance runner such as myself, is pace sustainment. So you want to be able to handle that and be as efficient as you possibly can while you're racing. And the mistakes that you make, you want to make those mistakes in training. You want to test the limits of your physiological and your mental capabilities in training. When you get to the race itself, and I made this mistake for several years until I started to become really confident in what I was doing. The race should be the fun part. You should not be stressed out on the day of the race. Now, it's okay to feel a little, to have some nerves and to, the morning of the race, you see people around you, but let the athletes that are around you, let them stress out, let them be tight. When you train in your preparation leading into your races, your preparation should be the most difficult, hardest part. That way, when you get to the race, there is absolutely nothing your competition can throw at you because you've experienced everything and then some in training. So I hope this video, Eric, answers your question. Again, great question. Anaerobic training obviously is as well as aerobic training are the two key pieces to going from being average to absolutely great in your particular event. And it takes time to master these two because, again, when you're motivated and you're driven, regardless if you're a middle distance runner or a long distance runner, it's hard to slow down on recovery days. I think that a big mistake that I made over the years, until I started to really start to perform at much higher levels, was focusing so much on, even worrying about what pace I was running on my easy days. Your easy days, they should be jogging. I trained with sub 2:10 marathoners, sub 4-minute milers, sub 1:02 half marathoners that would go out and run 9 to 10-minute mile pace on their easy days. But they could go out and run a marathon at under 5-minute mile pace for the marathon distance. These athletes understood that you have to focus both on the anaerobic training part as well as the aerobic easy running factors of preparation. And yes, the mile up to around the 10K are more anaerobic events. Anything really above 10 kilometers, 25K, half marathon, 20 miles, full marathon, those are more aerobic events. So you can make more mistakes in those longer events, and they're not so fast like the mile or especially the mile to the 5K. Those are really harder, faster anaerobic races. So you can't make so many mistakes as much as you can in a longer race. In a marathon, you can go out too fast, but you can also slow down and make up for it. And you have several miles and several kilometers down the road to correct that mistake. But if you go out too fast in a 5K or a mile, very difficult because, yes, you can still kind of adjust and make those corrections, but it's over like that, as you guys know and gals know. So pay attention to both the anaerobic as well as the aerobic training portions of your preparation, but also know the rest period is where you get all the benefits of your hard work. So the aerobic piece, I think, is even more important than the anaerobic training. Because yes, you have to stress the body. There's no question about it. You're not going to run faster at any distance and be able to sustain pace for any distance if you're not stressing your heart rate and really pushing the limits of your lactic acid capability. Clearance level, being able to clear it, being able to handle really high amounts of it, and it hurts, it's painful, But because you're training at such high efforts, that's going to make not only your easy days, easy pace faster without you even doing anything different because your heart is very well trained, but it's also going to make your anaerobic threshold pace increase at the same heart rate, as say like you started out with, and before you started your training, right when you started your training in the first few weeks, you're running at AT pace, and maybe you were running at 6 minute and 30-second mile pace, but a few weeks down the line, you're running at the same heart rate, but your pace is 5 minutes and 50 seconds per mile pace at the same effort on the same type of course and with the same type of weather that's outside. So mastering middle to long distance racing really comes down to your patience, your focusing on the other areas of preparation like proper rest, proper hydration, proper nutrition. I'm telling you guys, I post nutritiongeeks.com all the time and under all my videos for a reason. Nutrition is very important too, so don't neglect that piece. Mental training, mental preparation is a big piece, so do not neglect that. Visualize yourself doing what you want to do. Put in the hard anaerobic work. Allow time to run easy aerobic runs as well so that you can recover from those hard workouts. Visualize success constantly. Continue to visualize. It's going to train your subconscious mind to guide you where you're wanting to go. So it's a combination. If you want to be great at this sport, it's doing all the little details better than your competition. So I hope this video answered your question, Eric. Definitely leave me a question or a comment below the video if you have any other questions or concerns, anything else I can cover in my next video to help you out. And hit that subscribe and bell icon if you're brand new to the channel. If you're not brand new and you haven't hit it yet, hit it so that when I make a new video, you'll be notified of that. So hope you all have a great week of training, continued success to you all, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.